Hello, Maikako, and good afternoon, everyone. Mahalo for joining today's AEN agenda hearing on Wednesday, March 6, 2024 at 1 p.m. here in room 224. We'll be video conferencing and also being streamed live on YouTube. So in the unlikely event that there are some tech problems, we will reconvene Friday, 1 p.m. and March 8th here in this room. And because of our 90-minute time limit for each of the hearings, there'll be a 2-minute time limit on all testifiers. So GM 593 is the only measure on the agenda. It's submitting for consideration and confirmation as the deputy to the chairperson, Department of Agriculture, gubernatorial nominee Dexter Kishida for a term to expire 12/31/2026. And first up on our testifiers, we have Sharon Hurd, chairperson of Department of Ag.
Chairperson. Sharon Hurd, Department of Agriculture, testifying in strong support of Dexter Kishida as the nominee and to be confirmed for deputy of the department. Dexter makes the department good, better. He fills in the gaps of Department of Education and City and County of Honolulu. He's just a real good team player, and I stand on my written testimony that I spent some time on, so I hope everybody had a chance to read it. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Chair. Next is Pua Ayu from DLNR. Okay, thank you. Jade Boutte from Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. In support, Wendy Gady from ADC. In support, Department of Health. In support, all the testimony is in support, so I won't be saying in support after each of the names that I read. Blake Oshiro from the Office of the Gov, Tommy Johnson, Department of Corrections and Rehab, Kristen Sakamoto from DOTAX, Sabrina Nasir from BNF, Stephen Logan from Department of Defense, Glenn Sacco from the County of Hawaii Research and Development, Nadine Ando from DCCA, Ed Sniffen from Department of Transportation, Louis Salaveria from Budget and Finance, Keith Regan from DAGS, CIO Doug Murdoch from Hawaii Office of Enterprise Technology Services, Jimmy Tokioka from DBED, Kali Watson from DHHL, Keith Hayashi from Department of Education, Gary Suganuma from Department of Taxation, Jordan Lowe from Department of Law Enforcement, Sarah Freeman from the County of Hawaii R&D, Douglas Adams, Department of Research and Development from the County of Hawaii, and then Nalani Bruin from the County of Kauai, Office of Economic Development, Brian Miyamoto from Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Just give me next steps. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. I'll keep this short. You have our written testimony and support. I just wanted to come up and also offer not just the Hawaii Farm Bureau's strong support of the nominee, but also my personal support. I've known Dexter, or Mr. Kishida, pretty much the entire time that I've been at the Hawaii Farm Bureau. I've seen him grow within the industry, learn, gain experience in every single one of his, or in all the capacities that he's had that connect with agriculture. He is an asset and will be an asset, not just for the Department of Agriculture, but for Hawaii's agriculture sector in general. So we're here to offer our support on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau and my personal strong support for the nominee. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you, Brian. Christy Martin from CGAPS.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Christy Martin, Coordinating Group on Alien Pest Species. You have our letter of testimony in strong support. I also wanted to lend a voice of personal experience. Since Dexter Kishida has come on board, we've had a lot of really good and substantive meetings. And it's been very refreshing to be able to communicate on invasive species issues. He didn't come in knowing everything. It's really complex series of statutes and rules that the department has. And then you lay on top of that the federal agency, Department of Agriculture rules. And Dexter has very quickly come on board to be able to understand and really help guide the path forward. We've been able to work with him very closely on the Festival of the Pacific Island Arts and Culture, and he's been a true leader there. So strong support. Mahalo.
Thank you, Christy. Micah Munakata from Ulupono.
Good afternoon, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Richards, Senator Rhodes. Micah Munakata here on behalf of Ulupono Initiative. We stand on our testimony in strong support of the nominee. It takes a special person to want to serve in public service. I would argue that it takes an even more special person to serve within the Department of Ag. I'm looking at both Sharon and Dexter there. You know, it's a tough task. You know, working closely with Dexter from Ulupono's standpoint, and back when I worked at the OA, and seeing all the tasks that came his way, you know, working with him at the Department of Education as a farm to school coordinator, really trying to dive into something that was so difficult to find solutions in. And Dexter took it upon himself to really learn from the agricultural industry, go out and talk to farmers and ranchers, hear what they need, and really connect them to opportunities. Again, you look at his most, the previous role he's coming from with the city and county of Honolulu, again, going out and really understanding what farmers really need help with, how to really keep them afloat during COVID, and to really direct a lot of this important federal money to a lot of their needs. It's extremely important to really get the pulse of the industry, and Dexter is not shied away from that. That's someone you need in leadership, someone that's willing to go out and really talk to a lot of these folks and really understand them and find opportunities for them. As a state, we're looking to double local food production, really bring agriculture forward. Dexter is up to the task. So we really do stand in strong support of the nominee and hope for your support as well. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Micah. Natalie McKinney from Kokua Hawaii Foundation. In person. Let's see what she's got here. Megan Fox from Malama Kauai. Eva Lee from Tea Hawaii and Company, Hawaii Tea Society. Shane Castillo from CNC Tropicals. Linter Horst from Maui Epicure LLC. Ken Love from Hawaii Tropical Fruit Growers. Kevin Kelly from the North Shore EVP. James Kimo Falconer from Hawaii Coffee Growers Association. And again, all in support. Jason Okuhama from Commercial and Business Lending. Stephanie Iona from Kekaha Ag Association. Herb Lee from Pacific American Foundation. Aaron from Feed the Hunger Fund. Lauren Zerbel from Hawaii Food Industry Association. Larry Jeffs from Larry Jeffs Farms. Lucas McKinnon from Hawaii Good Food Alliance. Nicole Galassi from the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. Chantel Leilani Tamayo from the Kokua Hawaii Foundation. Nancy Redfeather from Ka'ohana o Napua. Mark Peterson from Kona Coffee Farmers Association. Mark Perriello from Kauai Chamber of Commerce. Greer Dixon from Kokua Hawaii Foundation. Jacqueline Kaina from Kauai Economic Development Board. Michelle Montgomery from Hawaii Ant Lab. Keone Lee from Hawaii Investment Ready. Suzanne Schreiner from Synergistic Hawaii Ag Council. Monet Bish from Kokua Hawaii Foundation. Bruce Corker from Rancho Aloha Coffee Farm. Hunter Hevelin from the Hawaii Farmers Union. Eric Tenoy from HFNA. Ted Radovich. Is Ted here?
Yeah, I'll stand by my written testimony and strong support, Chair.
Great, thank you, Ted. And then on Zoom, we have Robert Bentz. Is Robert there?
Not present on Zoom, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Lon Peressa, these individuals are also in support. Lauren Nelson, Sandy Kato Klutke, Dean Matsukawa, Ethan West, Debbie Milliken, Greg Takashima, Pesticides Program Manager for Department of Ag, Carol Kwan, Mark Suiso, Penny Levin, Annie Liu, Earl Yamamoto, Mary Alice Evans, Stacy Sugai, Patsy Kaneshiro, Lisa Kimura, Isaac Maida, Ray Gee, Dane Wicker, Marcy Klingon, Marion Suji, Matthew DeBonch, Scott Enright, Alex Narajos, Joseph Watt, May Nakahata, Warren Watanabe, M. Loke, Valerie Kato, Kelly Perry, McKenna Katie, Ruth Holmberg, Lisa Jeffers Fabro, Jay Ashman, Janice Stabb, Liddy Morgan Bernal, Lighty, Bryce Sprecher, Kathleen Ho, Ramsey Brown, Brendan Akamu. That's a total of 98 in favor. Anyone else wishing to testify in favor or opposed on this GM? Please.
Thank you, Chair, committee members. I'm Dennis Chase. I'm a program manager of the Hawaii Farm to School Hui, located under Hawaii Public Health Institute. And I wanted to say a lot of people have said today what a wonderful person Mr. Kishida is. I just wanted to add he is also extremely knowledgeable. When we have a question, when we're looking for a resource, when we want to know something about agriculture, about food systems throughout the state, Dexter is always my first call, and he always has really insightful answers and great information. And on the rare occasions he doesn't, he knows where to find it or who to direct me towards. So we strongly support this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair. Melanie Martin with the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. I thought I heard you say Director Johnson's name. I'm standing in for him.
Oh, okay.
And we just would like to stand on our written testimony and support of Mr. Kishida. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, members, any questions? Oh, yeah, please. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair and members of the committee. Mark Takimoto, I was standing in for Wendy Gady for ADC.
Okay.
So we just wanted to make sure that we spoke, working with Dexter, Mr. Kishida, he's been great to work with, and we look forward to working with him in the future. I think taking on this task is not a simple one, and he's taken it on with a lot of energy, and definitely sign him up before he gets away. But thank you very much for the opportunity to testify. Thank you
Thank you
and
very
support.
much. Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Kishida, would you like to make a statement?
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. Thank you for scheduling this hearing. I guess just a few things. I would like to express just my commitment to both the department, the industry, and the state of Hawaii as a whole. I really hope my resume shows just the fact that my life over the last decade has been to serve Hawaii, and really focusing on food systems and local agriculture as really the base, that base foundation in building a resilient food system here. At the department, I look forward to really building bridges, both within and showing how a department can work throughout the different divisions and not be siloed to create the efficiencies that are needed. We know that it's this year and probably next year, finances are going to be pretty tight, that we can do the best that we can with maybe little funds to support an industry that is truly at an inflection point. I really believe that agriculture today is at a place that we can take off and see significant growth in the sector. Hawaii's transition from that plantation era to now very diversified ag. And as we set up the programs, the capital to support that industry, we'll now see that significant growth. We've also got to create the policies necessary that will help the industry to truly, truly flourish. So one of the biggest goals I have is to help create that ecosystem through policy work, through relationship building, to help our industry achieve the goals that Hawaii has, to double agriculture by 2030, or double food production by 2030, and increase our exports. And I do believe it needs to be both. But all that also starts with measuring. We've got to know, where are we starting from? That's been our question for as long as I can remember when this came about in 2019. We're going to double from what? And so over this next year, we'll clarify and articulate better that market basket of where we are and how we're going to get there by 2030. Working with Chair Hurd and really building off of the strategy of creating generationally profitable farmers and building the timeline, the measurable timeline, the deliverables, the action points that are necessary to achieve this goal is really what I plan to do in the short term. One of the other parts of the industry that really intrigued me and I haven't dealt with much until joining the department is aquaculture. I really do think that the aquaculture industry has tremendous growth potential, especially maybe not in production a whole lot, but in the development of intellectual property, the development of the technologies necessary that worldwide worldwide can be used and develop it here. So developing almost a new area of agriculture that now working with DOE through our colleges, now to development, creating this pipeline of entrepreneurship. But most of all, as we look at our ag sector, is how do we support all of our farmers? While the ag census showed that we saw a large number of smaller farmers leave the market, or at least not respond to the survey, that how do we support both our small, medium, and large farmers to really complete the food system? That while a lot of our large farmers are the ones that produce majority of the food that we eat, our small farmers also feed our homes and our neighbors. And so how do we create the programs and the policies to achieve that goal, to holistically build our food system? And that's through programs like Chair Hurd has implemented, the microgrant program, that helps to feed our house and maybe our neighbors. But it's also looking at larger programs like the department has implemented through the legislature, like the Grow Hawai'i programs, or through the current federal funding that Chair is excellent at getting as well, to build resilient food systems. And that middle of the road where that investment has been shown over and over again being key to grow agriculture. And so as we work through this year, I also commit to working with the legislature. Hopefully my last few months working with you all is a good start, but I look to further deepen the relationships, because more than Chair and I can be in community, you all are in your community, working with the industry, working with community members, and get solid feedback. And so working together, I think we can really build a strong food system and an even stronger local agriculture sector. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, before we have questions for Mr. Kishida, were there any questions for the testifiers, members? Okay. How about questions for Mr. Kishida? We'll start off with Senator DeCoy.
Thank you, Dexter, for being here. You know, your support sees volumes about yourself. The pleasure is for me is working with you, seeing that you have a vision. So I just have a few questions. One of them is invasive species. Where does invasive species fit in a priority of 1 to 5? We've been dealing with a lot of that lately, and give me a short-term, mid-term, long-term of how we are to combat that. If we take a look at everything from spittlebug on the Big Island, coqui frogs on Maui, and how we will go about literally suppressing it now before it gets away from us, that will cost us in upwards of $50 million plus.
Fully understand. I think 2 months ago I always said, give us money and we'll take care of it. Knowing that's not as viable an option today, it's going to take that relationship building. So in the short term, the Department of Ag and our partners, DLNR, the ISCs, et cetera, are working on an MOU agreement. Because one of the things we need to do is stop kind of stepping over each other sometimes and streamline what we do to ensure that what Department of Ag does in taking care of the ag industry regarding invasives, that folks know that's our kuleana. And that the IS or HAL will focus on maybe residential and other businesses. And so as we can delineate that in the very short term, we're talking in the next month, that we'll be able to now, I think, we will be able to better attack all of these problems, both the current, but also then looking to the future. And that's really where our department shines. Because my team needs to look on the horizon on what is coming or maybe shows up at our doorstep in the ports. And that does need funding, because it's a matter of bodies being out there to go through the tens of millions of parcels that are coming in every day. Ideally, wrapping up to the point that we can have ag inspectors walking the baggage claim with canines and having that kind of inspection capacity to do two things. One, the canine and inspector combo does make people a little intimidated, that if they're carrying fruit or smuggling in a branch of something to plant, makes them a little nervous, but also we're able to stop it at the port. Because once it goes inland, that's when we're talking about 50 million plus to handle. And on things like two-line spittle bug and a few others, actually, no, this is applicable to everything. Another thing the department is moving forward on is really working with communities and empowering them to do it. So if the two-line, maybe I should speak it into being, but when the two-line spittle bug bill passes with funding, to be able to empower our ranchers to they're already doing it today, but at their dime. So providing a reimbursement program that we can actually offset those costs, because right now, the ranchers in that area have a chance. There are some more extreme measures that we still need to talk about and see if we can work in to that other areas have done, clear cutting or those kinds of things. But if we are at that drastic point, which we kind of are, it's really looking at all options to even that extent to deal with these problems.
So let me,
I'm sorry, I didn't say 1 to 5, but go ahead.
no.
Go ahead.
So I want to follow up because communities have played a huge role. Huge role. I was just with Tia guys in a community meeting last night about coqui frogs, and the challenges have been that while you have the bulk of the neighborhood trying to do what they had to do, there are those that feel that we don't want to kill coqui frogs. Some is for religious purposes. So they don't want the citric acid being sprayed. How do you work with, and you know what I said was, I proposed to them, I said, and I want to know how you feel about it, to do a burn back between that and the spittle bug, because we've been tasked and hit with also fireweed. Spittlebug has taken thousands of acres of our grassland, our ranch land. What is your thoughts on burn back, and then to incorporate, as you said earlier, with the partnerships of the fire department doing training, setting back buffers? You know, we've always known that by burning, it also helps to cleanse. And then the regrowth is fresh regrowth, and then to kind of kill off some of this disease, because we're trying to get away from pesticides. We're trying to get away from all these things that have had opposition on it and due to health reasons and so forth. What's your thoughts on that kind of measures, and the fact that even though we have all these positions, and I know that they have a posting for $19 an hour, nobody's coming to work. So would something like this be within your thought process and the creativity that, you know, I so look forward to hearing from you about?
Absolutely. And I'll confirm with my team, who are much more experts than I, but if we look at history, that's how nature has solved some of these issues. And while it's great, because I don't like being cold, we don't have a winter that destroys all the bugs like other areas on the continent. So as great it is for me, it's great for its two-line spittle bug, for coqui frogs, for LFA, right? All of these things, CRB. And that is where we are at the point that we need to pull out all the stops, and discussions with the governor's office and chair to look at, would something like an emergency proc help? And in a burn back situation, it might, because there are some other rules around governing some of those things. And I get it, it's a sensitive topic still, but something like that, like a clear cutting or a burn back, might be a great option. it's worked
Could be
in
good
other South
training for a
Pacific.
fireman.
Correct. Where then it's
And then
really
the county.
controlled, right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Chair.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, Chair.
Senator Richard?
First of all, Mr. Kushida, thanks for willing to step up. Couple of things. Going through your recommendations, you have broadband support from small agriculture, large agriculture, across the departments, which tells me that collaboratively you're out there. Mr. Munakata made a comment about it takes a special person to want to do this. Why do you want to do this?
I ask myself that often. A few things. Over the last decade of my life, I've dedicated to work on localizing our food system. That really is where my passion point started. And it started back when I was a cafeteria manager. That's where this journey began, feeding kids and realizing I couldn't get local produce on their plate without a huge challenge, and found that absolutely absurd. That journey led me to today and the opportunity when the call came to say, hey, what do you think, to do it. And I've also been of the mindset of go big or go home, that put your money where your mouth is and just do it, because I can sit back and complain, department's not doing this, not doing that. You know, why we never see the Department of Ag anywhere, blah, blah, blah. And then a few months later, I see myself in the Department of Ag. So, you know, I think that's the journey that I've taken throughout my life, that for whatever reason, I've seen an issue and then been put in a predicament of, are you going to do something? You're going to walk away. And I choose to do something. And I'm here today because Hawaii Ag I really believe, even though a year ago I heard this figure that was thrown out, that Hawaii Ag's contribution to GDP is irrelevant. We can double it and it's irrelevant. And I challenge that, because yes, while if you look at maybe Farmgate in straight dollars, that the contribution to GDP is irrelevant, the contribution to our community and to our economy is bigger, because as the base of a larger system, agriculture has key role from the beginning of time in building our community and keeping Hawaii.
Couldn't agree with you more, especially when it comes down, if we just measure by the dollars, that's not necessarily the value. You and I have discussed this. I've asked you why, and sometimes I ask myself the same question, why, but now I want to ask you a little bit of the how. I've heard the description you talked about. One thing that is very important to this group is the agricultural crimes that is plaguing us right now. Where do you see us going with this? And we can talk about the recent shooting, we can talk about the recent theft of a water truck, even as recently as last night or the night before. Where do you see, and then also the invasive species side, where do you see Department of Agriculture and regulatory when it comes to some of this, and what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. To start with ag crimes, now that we have Department of Law Enforcement, we have the perfect opportunity to partner with them on this. While we're the subject matter experts, and my team are the subject matter experts on agriculture as a sector, they're the experts when it comes to law enforcement and investigating and those kinds of things. And so I really see a tight partnership of agriculture funding, or through agriculture funding positions on each island, that can focus specifically on agricultural crimes. What we've got to do is cut through the forms, and as Chair shared, I think at the info briefing, there's just all these forms that farmers can fill out if there's ag crimes. When there's theft and you've been robbed or you've been hurt, or as in Mr. Pia's case, a family member was shot, you don't want to fill out forms. I need somebody to take care of the problem for me and find out who did it and bring them to justice, or get my stuff back. And that's what the partnership with DLE in the future, or hopefully near future, will be able to do. Now, that is contingent upon funding. DLE as a new entity is going to need the funding to fund these kinds of positions. And so in the meantime, it's also educating our folks to work with local law enforcement, whether it's culture or just the independent nature of farming. Farmers don't share and report crime until it gets so bad that they have to. But we need these figures, we need them. And the department can work with the counties today to make sure there's action taken on these kinds of issues. And realizing that, yes, ag crime, and it's been in the top issues for ag as long as I've known Brian Miyamoto, I think. We're young, so it's only a few years, but it's been one of the top issues. And another reason why I agreed, to jump back to a question, why I agreed, is in early conversations before I jumped on board the department with Chair Hurd, one of her things was, we're going to not kick cans down the road anymore. And so that's the how for ag crimes. For invasive species, my team needs to be that, and a few folks have said it, that point of the spear, or that generalist, that general practitioner that has to kind of know a little bit of everything and work. And that's where this MOU and other types of avenues to work with the specialists like Hawai'i Ant Lab to really dive deep on ants and those community insects or other things. And that's where I really see DOA in the short term, especially with funding limitations, to act as that generalist, to be able to guide the IS, the HALs on what to do, because we have the experts.
Okay. So you're saying things that are near and dear to me as what we're talking about. So I fully appreciate that. We talked about the why, we talked about the how. Now, what are you going to do in the short term as far as programs?
Sure. So with this always is also an interesting timing of conversation, because we're in the smack dab middle of the session. And a session that, again, we look at budgets and go, we kind of don't know what it's going to look like in a few weeks. So I'm going to speak maybe not in two ways. One, if we have money, and one, if we don't. Ideally, if funding is there, again, for ag crimes, we're going to fund DLE to create these investigator positions to be able to work with our ag community and have that liaison, not only liaison, but actual investigative capacity to take care of these things, focused on ag, understanding ag. And it might take a little while to get up to speed, but that's where my guys come into play to be the quick study. Now, if there isn't funding, then it is working with the counties. One thing I've done since jumping in as deputy or acting deputy is to work with the ag liaisons in each county, finding it really essential to, again, we have limited capacity with a couple hundred staff statewide to support an industry of 6,500 farmers. But these ag liaisons are at the county level and have deep roots with the county farmers. So in the same way, working with the law enforcement in each county in the short term, I think is really what's got to happen. And what I commit to in working with the local law enforcement at the county to ensure that ag crimes aren't just put on the side as almost a nuisance, is what it sometimes feels like, is the words that come back, and that it is a priority of each police department to not only investigate, but and prosecutors' offices to prosecute. Because that's the other thing that I heard at both the info briefing and through anecdotes, is that investigations will occur and then nothing happens afterwards. And so then as the thief or worse, what's the ramifications? I must do it again. So I show up to a court date. Oh, not enough evidence, I'm done. And so the prosecutors and our AGs are going to be really key to ensure that we can follow through with prosecution.
Okay. I could keep going
Sorry.
on for, no,
I can too.
because I'm hearing the passion that I think to get the needle to move, we got to be passionate about it. So, and when we're talking about the informational briefing, you're looking at it right here. This is what
That's
you mean.
right.
So I thank both Chair Gabbard and Chair DeCoit for putting that together and get this thing formed. So appreciate it, Chair. Thanks so much. I yield.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Dexter, in your questionnaire that we sent out, you said that we asked for your three qualities that you bring to the table. You said your greatest attributes that you bring to the sector are my abilities to approach problems with realistic optimism, collaborate effectively, and through calculated risk-taking, achieve desired goals. In our experience in working with you so far, I've felt that realistic optimism, and it's very refreshing. It's very, very nice working with that, and I hope that will continue. But I wanted also to say, you'd mentioned it in your statement that according to the census by USDA, the Ag Census, that a number of small farms, they'd gone down from 7,328 in 2017 to 6,569 in 2022. So what are your thoughts about the decrease, and more importantly, how can we attract new farmers, especially the younger generation, into this quote unquote noble profession and get these numbers back up?
Absolutely. And this is a conversation that I've asked, or a point that I've asked my team, Matt and others, to look into a little further, because while the numbers show decrease, there's a lot going on from 2017 to 2022. As we've seen in the workforce overall, there's kind of been this mass exodus during the pandemic, as I think was the main turning point on this. How we get new farmers, we have great programs through the Farm Union, the Go Farm, and others that are graduating amazing farmers. But then I hear that they're leaving, not only the island that they're trained on, but then even the state, because they can't afford farmland. They can't afford to do business here. And that's where creating and aligning the capital necessary, but also as a state, ensuring that we acquire the proper assets that let farmers scale up. Because the farmer that graduates Go Farm is most likely not ready for a 100-acre farm, but they probably are just about ready for that 3, 5, maybe 10-acre. And so creating additional ag parks, like what we've proposed in Royal Kunia, where 10-acre lots are there that we can get farmers on land. Now, there might be some other ways that we can also create a capital stack for farmers to get onto private property, a little more challenging, but that's the other side. That how do we create and bring in capital, investors, et cetera, that aren't just going to invest for money, but invest in Hawaii to help build the capital so farmer can get their own land as well. And then again, we come back to policies. And this is the body to bring it up with, but looking at water policies, at even things like pesticide policies that will help our farmers reduce their cost of doing business. Because while we think, they've got to be rolling in it, they're getting every 6 weeks a lettuce farmer can harvest and sell, great. And then they go, and we see this trend going more direct sales. So even more so, they're cutting out a middleman. They got to be doing great. Most of our farms are just one sale away from going out of business. And so how do we reduce their costs to do this? So part of it is co-oping, and not necessarily co-oping businesses, but co-oping inputs. And that's, and sort of leveraging what we've done in the past, where we had these huge businesses that were able to ship in containers of inputs. We don't have that today, but as a co-op, we could. So if we can get farmers and ranchers to agree to maybe use the single input, we can ship in this large. Now, yes, bigger challenge. I get it. Independent nature of farmers. I get it. But I think through continued engagement, we can get there.
Is the department aware of, you're in DOE, I'm a former teacher. Is the department aware of what the DOE is doing in terms of curriculum, in terms of farming? And is farming getting its fair shake as a career path to our young, because that's what we need to be doing, is reaching out to young people.
Absolutely.
So that they see it as a viable career, this is what I want to do.
Chair and I have had conversations over the last 6 months or so with superintendent about this, and also about buying more local. And I really commend Superintendent Hayashi, because when I was in the DOE, ag was kind of left to be when you're not behaving in class, go to ag program.
Yeah.
And actually they excelled in it, so that was great. But now we're seeing a real turn. The teacher of the year, Lelehua's ag teacher, perfect example.
Yeah.
Bringing FarmBot, so that's a robotic farming unit. So kids that maybe don't like to get their hands as dirty are learning programming skills to program the thing that can plant, weed, water in a square foot bed, not a square foot, but in a garden bed. And so I want to say that our ag programs are now thinking outside of the box. Waipahu High School, another example of looking at really forward-thinking projects of indoor farming. They bought a couple interesting units to grow starters. And so our ag programs are really developing. And we also have an ag industry that is willing to support them. We have an indoor farmer that is looking to support one of our Honolulu schools in building an indoor farm there, and help the teacher build a curriculum around this to say, maybe indoor farming is a way that can be viable in Hawaii. And so definitely that's where my optimism maybe comes in, but I do feel the DOE has really implemented changes to say farming is a viable and noble career path.
I have to mention this, you didn't mention it in your statement, but on one of the site visits out to Ma'o Farms many years ago, when I talked to a young man who was, made mistakes, dropped out of Waianae High School, but he was in the program out there. And so I asked him, what has this program meant to you? And he said, it saved my life. And so tears started coming down his cheeks as he explained. First he said, and Senator, I'm not bragging, but I am an expert on organic farming.
Awesome.
I know planning, harvesting, marketing, everything. And then he said, and now my mission in life is to feed my people, the people of the Waianae Coast, so they don't have to go down to Costco or Times or any place else. They can buy from the back of my truck every Saturday morning at the farmer's market. So then I'm crying too, and we're hugging each other. But that, somehow, if we can continue and drive up and reach out to these young people, and get that kind of, that's that passion.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else, members? We'll go right into decision making, if that's okay with everyone. So, based on the unanimous testimonies and support, the chair's recommendation will be to advise and consent to the appointment of Dexter Kishida to the Deputy Chair of Department of Ag. Any questions or concerns? Chair votes aye.
Thank you, Chair. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Alwar.
I apologize. I apologize. Came straight from the field. It was working, doing agriculture work.
Right on. Chair, you have 5 in favor. The motion is adopted.
And unanimous from the Agriculture Environment Committee. So. Okay, thank you very much, and we'll go ahead and close out this meeting. Thank you, guys.